G'day guys, kia ora. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here for the Wildkard Rugby Show. And yes, the Blues has overpowered the Fijian Drua at Eden Park. Yeah, Eden Park is always one of those places that's even difficult for New Zealand teams to go there and win from the South Island, let alone, from a completely different island in the middle of the Pacific for the Enduras to travel over there. But they actually looked like they were in the game for the first half. The Enduras was only down by a conversion, 14 points to 12 at halftime. And it really gave everyone quite a bit of hope coming out of the second half. But yeah, I think that, there was just like the star power, the scrum, the organizational structure that the Blues had embedded into the team just pulled through in the second half with quite a powerful finish to the team. And it is always one of those things, like you see in very top level matches, like even the Springboks do this, is that when your team is in trouble, you go to your bread and butter. You go to the things that you know that you're gonna have an advantage: the scrum, the line out, the maul, and that's what the Blues did. They kind of really went into that default set piece mode and just started working themselves back into the game, start backing themselves and creating that spaces out wide. On the other hand, the Endurers, they found quite a bit of a success with an open field play and try to create some chaos and just post contact offloads saw them a fair bit of momentum in the first half, leading into 2 tries. But in the second half, the Blues basically was able to slow the game down, and the Endurers wasn't able to build the momentum. The Blues defense was pushing up really nicely in a line. There was no one was rushing out of the line for the Blues defense, knowing how dangerous the Endurers could be if they just make like a half shoulder break and suddenly an offload goes off, and then you're chasing down a flying Fijian on the other side of the field. And the Blues has done really well to stay connected in the defense and not really allowing that Endurers getting that half break that they were looking for. And overall, this was really well done, especially with the Endurers at times looked like they really didn't have an idea what they wanted to do with the backline, and the backline just looked, there was not that many options for Kemu Valentini to pick from, and they just kind of end up a lot of times just passing the ball and then running into a flat defensive line, and the teams just end up going backwards at time as a result of this. So I really thought that the Fijians needed to come out with a different way and probably have a bit more depth in the back line to try to maybe bait the Blues defensive line to come out a little bit and to shuffle up and create some gaps between the line for them to follow through with that chaotic style of rugby. And yeah, and the Blues did really well to stay disciplined and not really getting disconnected from that defense, knowing how good the Fijians are. And another thing is, I talk about this in the Waratahs game, the idea of kicking penalty goals immediately coming out of the goal, out of the sheds. I know the Endurers have found a lot of success, especially at home, with goal kicking. They do have some pretty good goal kickers. You've got Armstrong, Ravola, and then you got Valentini as well. And the thing is, yes, they're great kickers, but I am beginning to think that the Drua are becoming too over reliant on the goal kicking and really starting to overlook that natural talent of running attacking style of rugby a little bit. Now I talk about this in the Waratahs game as well. When you decide to take the 3-point, you are actually it's like I think best way to put it is, you kick and pray, right? You take the 3 points, you take the kick, and you pray for more penalties to be given against the Blues. Now that is not a active strategy. That is a passive strategy that you're relying upon the opposition to make mistakes for your benefit. And that's just, I am sorry to say this. I know you get away with it in Super Rugby because some of the teams are just not that disciplined, but it is not a great strategy. I know the Waratahs won last night as well, but I just don't think that's a good strategy because it's, when it comes to, you want to take the agency by your own hands. You wanted to be able to put yourself in a position where you can dictate where the game is played, where to apply pressure and how the points and where the points are being scored, right? You want to be able to control that. You want to be able to dictate the pace of the game, dictate the territory, and you want to dictate when the try is scored, how the try is scored, and with confidence that you're gonna get points when with not like 100% confidence, no one's not, but with a certain amount of confidence, like hey, like the Blues did, right? We go for the maul, we'll have a pretty good 70% chance of getting a try here. And if the maul fails, we're gonna do a crash ball center field, and there's a good chance if we take out the two centers in the crash ball, we're gonna have an overlap out wide or a mismatch in the short side with a bunch of forwards, right? That's the sort of ideas that you need and to start to consistently win games, because you have the agency. You can dictate where the game is played. You can figure out where the space is, and that is a much better way to go about it. Even though sometimes you may not work out, right? It's not gonna score a try every time you go for a maul, or you do a crash ball center field or whatever. But it's like you can improve that probability the more you work towards those areas. So maybe you start with only 50%, 30% probability of scoring from more. You work that way up throughout the season to like 60, 70%. And that's how you start winning championships, right? Because it's you're actively engaging in pursuing the points. Whereas the penalty kicks, you are literally praying the opposition continue to do silly things. And with, especially at the highest level, at test match level, the opposition just don't give away that many penalties anymore. And you're not going to go into the game and going, oh my goodness, whether or not we're going to win this game really depends on the referee, really depends on how he interprets the breakdown and how stupid the opposition going to be in terms of giving away silly offsides. You're not going to win many big matches like that. You're going to win that against the lower tier shit teams. But any team with any sort of competence, you're not going to be able to do that. And I think that's a criticism I gave away to the Waratahs, and I think that also applies here to the Endurers. Over relying on kicking, and it's a passive strategy, and it does not lead you to consistent wins. It's not to say that goal kicking cannot be used. It definitely can be used, right? If you try your lineouts, you try your mauls, you did your crash balls and pick and drives and whatnot, and you really like you cannot score, then you take the 3, right? Then you gotta recalibrate that strategy. But it's not like something that you should just be pursuing immediately as your primary objective. Anyway, outside of that, Peyton Spencer got his first try, first start for the fullback position. Made a big mistake in the field as well. So yeah, a young guy, but still quite a bit of promise, quite a bit improvement to go, and look quite promising. Outside of that, yeah, let's have a look at the match stats of the game. 5 tries to 2 for the Blues, bonus point wins, 302 run meters to the Endurers, 377. 13 turnovers conceded to the Endurers, 14. The run meters per carry was more effective for the Blues, 76 carries, and for 302 run meters, 128 carries for 377 run meters for the Endurers. So more run meters, right, but less efficient. 158 tackles made for the Blues, 21 missed tackles. 90 tackles made for the let's just refresh this. Doesn't seem right. Yeah. 102 tackles made for the Endurers, 20 missed tackles for them. Kicks in play, 23 for both teams. 1 conversion missed by Bowden. 1 missed by Camus Valentini. 569 kick meters for the Endurers, 740 for the Blues. So very managed that kicking game much better as well. Managed the territory game much better as well for the Blues. 17 lineouts for the Blues, 1 loss. 7 for the Endurers, 5 loss. The lineouts were horrendous. It was painful to watch at times. The Blues did really well to disrupt, and every time they disrupt, you can see the confidence from the lineouts just really go down even further. Not stray was caught as well against the Fijians. So yeah, definitely have to think about it. Sometimes, it's really important to sort of like keep it simple, and I think keep it simple, keep it fast, and try to catch your opposition off guard. It's probably the best way to go about it. And since the Endurers likes to keep that tempo up anyway, I think it really pays to just have a few really simple, fast calls, and you can just immediately set it up and bang, bang, and out off you go, right? And it's just yeah, I think that yeah, it definitely needs work, and the Drua coaches has to really think about that one. 4 scrums, 8. So I want to talk about the scrum a little bit. So there was one thing because the referees were Australian this week, and I just wonder like, yeah, the one thing I want to say is Australian referees likes to just call play on with the scrum, even though there were times where it looked like a penalty should have been given. Is this one at the end here? This looked like a clear penalty and turnover for the Honduras, and the Australian referees were just reluctant to call it. And I just, yeah, I understand you want to keep the game flowing, but making the right call is the more important aspect of the game. So if we watch this, nice hit, and you can see that this guy's already going down on his knee. You could maybe argue that Honduras pulled him sideways a little bit, but he's already down on his knees from the hit. And the referee just said play on, and you got 2 referees here, and this referee should have made a call because that should be a penalty because he's going down on his knees, and there's and Drua player stayed on his feet despite the fact that the Blues player went to his knee, and the referee just went, yep. This is quite dangerous, by the way. If people kept pushing when someone's on the ground, this is how you get shoulders get disconnected, you get necks get rolled. So yeah, I really don't like that at all. Penalties conceded 6 against the Blues and 9 against Honduras, and you can see out of the 6 penalties, it just refresh, just make sure this is the correct stat. Out of the 6 penalties, only 2 inside the half, the Fijian half. Only 2 kickable penalties in the entire game. Yeah, this is what I mean. Kick and pray is just never gonna work because you don't have the agency to control where the game is, where the ball, where the points being scored. Anyway, let's have a look at a quick recap of the game. So the Blues came out and got the first points on the board. The Honduras tackling was quite soft at the beginning. The Blues were just constantly able to get forward with crash balls, and eventually Rampling crashed over for the first try with the pick and go, 7 points to 0. 18 minutes into the game, the Honduras muscled up quite a bit here. They built like 16, 17 faces all the way from basically 40 meters out, getting close to the try line, and then eventually Wanga crashed over for the try, 7 points to 7. 90 minutes into the game, there was the Blues went for the line out, and they went for the more and gets the more try with Slater, 14 points to 7. And just before halftime, there was a mistake from Spencer, leading into a Fijian Drua 50-22, and then they just powered through defenders midfield, run in midfield, and then there was Wanga ran through like 3 defenders, got about 5 meters short, lots of pick and go, and then Vose got a little pop pass from the halfback, winning for the try. 14 points to 12. Just before halftime, it's a bit interesting. There was a penalty. Honduras could have kicked the penalty out and played on, and potentially potentially milked another penalty or something, but they just decided at halftime relinquishing the opportunity to play, something that top teams don't usually capitalize on the penalty to try to get something more on. It's like a free play before halftime. So again, just lack of experience showing them. Second half, the pray and the kick and pray comes into play for the Honduras. There was an early penalty, and Valentini kicked 3, and I actually wrote, doesn't look good. And then sure enough, 50 minutes into the game, the Blues had a penalty, won the lineouts. The more wiggle forward, and eventually Slater gets another try, 21 points to 15. 58 minutes in the game, another more for the Blues. The ball went out, draw and pass. They went out to, what's his name? Vai, yes, the new guy, went in for the try, 26 points to 15. And then 64 minutes, there was a turnover from the Blues inside their own 22. They quickly spread the ball out wide. Caleb Clark ran down, then linked up with Bowden. Bowden ran down, linked up with Christie. Christie kicked the ball down the field, and then Spencer ran through with full speed, grounds the ball for another try, 30 points to 15. And finally, 70 minutes, we saw that scrum there, absolute shambles. The referee says play it on. The Blues spread the ball out wide to Caleb Clark, ran into the corner for the 40-point win in the end. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later for Chiefs versus the Western Force. Thanks for watching. Cheers.